I've had to make quite a few of these so that I can pick the best from the bunch. Either some of them just didn't cure nice, or they got scuffed afterwards, or I just didn't do a very good job of trimming them. Let me know in the comments, have you guessed straight away what mould I'm going to be using today? A few more seconds to guess, and you're going to find out in 3, 2, 1. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my spring collaboration video. For this video I am going to do some more coffee cup shakers. This is my favourite mould because I love coasters and I love shakers. The last time I used these was about 6 months ago. I did an autumn or fall scenery in them. So I am going to make a spring scenery in them this time. So I've put my flat pieces, which will be the cover of the shakers, onto a hard surface so that it can be easily picked up and moved out of my way whilst I work on the rest of the project. I'm not actually sure if I pour them on camera. For some reason I get a feeling I don't. As you saw at the beginning, I end up making lots, but I don't even recall making the first 4 on camera for some reason. But I do want to skip over the resin pouring part and focus more on the scenery making part anyway. As you can see here, I've already got a coaster holder, and that's because I've already made this set. However, I used a cheap resin for the first time and the cups did not come out good. However, the holder did come out good, so I'm not going to waste the holder. I will just remake the cups. And there I'm showing you that I am going to use a blue and a green alcohol ink to make translucent coloured cups. Spraying the cups with plenty of alcohol to get the alcohol all around the sides in the recesses. And yes, with hindsight, I realise I'm using alcohol inks. However, I think spraying alcohol is just habit for me now. And I am pouring some blue in the top half of the cups and green at the bottom half of the cups to represent sky and grass. Okay, I've jumped ahead to when the first batch of covers have cured, and I'm just showing you that I am using my wire cutters to trim these up. Whichever ones I end up using later, this is the same way that I will do all of them. I trim the big chunks off with my wire cutters and then just use a nail file to sand off any uneven lumps and bumps that I have left behind. Okay, so now for the fun artistic part, the scenery making. I'm just putting a variety of colours onto a piece of paper to see what shades I want to use for making some little trees. So I'm going to mix up some UV resin, just clear hard type, with some brown, and I am going to fill in the tree shapes on that mould and cure them little sections at a time. And then I will do the same with some green for some leaves. So I'll just let you watch this for a minute to a little music time lapse. I'll see you in a moment.
Clear as in morning, colors softly flow. Blue sky drifting where the wildflowers grow. Tiny blossoms waking on a swirling tree. A little world of spring inside this cup of tea. Petals floating slowly in the light. Gentle shimmer dancing in the sight. Spring in a cup, a garden in glass. Little bright moments quietly pass. Petals and colors drifting above a tiny blooming tree full of love. Spring in a cup, soft colors awake. A dream of the meadow we quietly make. Hold it to sunlight, watch it appear. A little piece of spring right here. Drops of color meeting in rising as the sky draws near. Tiny flowers scatter in the breeze, a peaceful little forest in the trees. Sparkling pollen.
And now we're going to demould the cups and give them a trim. Because of the different shapes on these with the handle, I do use a variety of tools. I use the wire cutters for the straight edges, deburring tool for some sections. I even try with my craft knife a little bit, but I'm a bit clumsy, so that's not a great idea. And a nail file just to smooth it off again. Alright, I'm not 100% happy with how these have turned out. I'm just giving them a little clean with alcohol right now, but you can see that they're very dimply, and I don't know why. I didn't have this problem when I made them for the autumn project, which I will link, by the way. So I don't know what's gone wrong with them this time. It's the same resin, craft resin. I always use craft resin, apart from the one time I've tried a cheap resin that I mentioned earlier. Anyway, so to try and clean up those dimples a bit, if I can either get them out altogether or disguise them a little bit, I'm just giving them a little sand. I have got the 4-in-1 sander, but it's a hassle for me to get that out. So I'm just doing a hand sanding and a polish, and I can't remember if I give them a spray with a varnish as well. We'll see. I'll leave you to watch this for a minute.
Through the air, every tiny detail placed with care. Spring in a cup, a garden in glass, little bright moments quietly pass. Petals and colors drifting above a tiny blooming tree full of love. Spring in a cup, soft colors awake, a dream of the meadow we quietly make. Hold it to sunlight, watch it appear, a little piece of spring right here. Shake it gently, watch the petals fall, a tiny living painting after all. In this cup a quiet season stays, blooming softly through the red.
Ah, yes, I do give them a spray as well. I didn't get rid of those, what did I call them? I can't remember what I called them. Them little pinprick holes anyway. But A, they may get covered up by the scenery, and B, they can be excused by the scenery, as in weather has little raindrops and things in it, even in spring. Yeah, we'll call them sort of strange raindrops. So now I am going to make some soil, and I'm using sand to do that, which I'm colouring brown because I don't have soil. I don't think there's any such thing as a craft soil, so anything textured, painted brown will suffice as being soil in my book. And I've mixed up some green resin again, which I am going to give texture by using some of this fake moss to make it look like grass, which will go on top of the soil. So now I have propped up the coaster whilst I put in some soil, and I don't want the soil to go flat against the back of the coaster. I want it to build up to look like the ground. So I'm going to just pour little bits on and cure it a little bit at a time and build up on it a little bit to give a depth of soil. I would like to take this opportunity to remind you that this is a spring collaboration video. The spring collaboration was organised by Tracy at Mini Scenes GB. The playlist link will be in my description. Please go and have a little binge watch. I'm sure there will be a really interesting variety of projects from a variety of very skilled creators in there. Thank you. Okay, one thing to bear in mind if you're going to do something like this is you do not want any of your scenery to be thicker than the depth of the coaster. You do not want to prevent being able to put the coaster cover on, as I'm demonstrating here. And also, if you're going to put liquid in your shaker, you need to make sure you do not block that hole for squirting the liquid into. I'm undecided at the point that you're watching, and throughout the whole of the project, right until the very last moment, I'm undecided whether I'm going to put liquid in or not. Stay tuned to find out whether I do or not. Okay, I've put my soil and grass in on all of the coasters now, and I'm going to start putting my trees on. I also want to brighten up that grass a little bit. It's looking a bit dark down there. So I've also got this fake stuff. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but I'm using it as though it is grass. And sealing that in with some UV resin just to make it stick in place. Doesn't have to be mixed in with the resin as such, but it will stick the tree in place as well. I'm also putting a bit of resin over the mud and the original grass to try and make a smoother finish on the top there, which you'll understand my reasoning for soon. Alright, I've also got some fake flowers here. I ain't got a clue what they're called, but I'm going to attempt to use some of those little white buds. At first I was going to stick them on the tree branches to make the trees look like they're starting to blossom, but I changed my mind about that. So let's speed through a little bit more of this decorating process.
Clear cup mold on the table tonight, drops of color catching the light, soft blue sky and a field of green, building the tiniest springtime scene. Petals waiting, blossoms so small, tiny tree standing proud and tall. Careful hands place every part, turning resin into art. Pour it slow, watch the colors blend, little words we slowly mend. Petals drift and the sparkles spin, a little spring sealed in resin. Pour it slow, let the moment stay, flowers dancing in the day. Shake the cup and watch it begin, a tiny garden sealed in resin. Moss for grass at the forest floor, tiny blooms placed just once more, drops of...
Alright, here I am putting a layer of resin down over the whole piece to seal in all the tree branches, because when I am shaking my embellishments around in it, I do not want them getting stuck behind the tree branches. So just a thin layer to fully seal in that tree.
Trapped in glass, watching every bubble pass. Seal the layer, let it cure. Simple things that feel so pure. Every swirl and every...
And here I'm doing the same again, but with some of that purple, mossy, grassy stuff. Okay, jumping ahead to where I have done all 4 trees and sealed them all in, made them look a bit more flowery. Now I'm just going to place some little pieces on the ground and resin over them as well to seal those, well, to stick those down and just to smoothen off that textured surface again. Now I do want to build up the height, and when I say height this time, I don't mean scenery height as in from the ground to the base of the tree to the top of the tree. I mean height as in thickness of coaster. I want to build up the height of that soil and grass area as much as I can, because when I shake embellishments around in this, I do not want them getting trapped in and amongst lumps and bumps of the soil stroke grass area. It's really difficult because obviously if the coasters are laid down like they are now, if I pour resin on top of the soil grass area, it's going to run down and onto the trees. but I can't stand them up straight either to build up the thickness of the resin from tabletop to top of coaster, if you know what I mean. So I'm just building it up a little bit at a time as best as I can, in the hope that once I put the coaster cover on, there will be minimal gaps to allow embellishments to get trapped.
A handmade spring coming into view. Pour it slow, watch the colors blend. Little worlds we slowly mend. Petals drift and the sparkles spin. A little spring sealed in resin. Pour it slow, let the moment stay. Flowers dancing in the day. Shake the cup and watch it begin. A tiny garden sealed in resin.
Okay, jumping ahead. I have made some green leaves using that mould, so I've just put green on a leaf shape and cured that and pulled it out of the mould, so I've got lots of little leaves. But I've also covered some of my dried flower leaves in UV resin in the hope of sealing them so that if I put liquid in the shaker, they will not disintegrate. However, I end up not liking them. As you can see there, they're still sort of sticky. They're cured, it's not that kind of unsticky, but they're just tacky. They stick to each other. At one point I put one on my finger, turn my finger upside down, and it stays stuck on my finger instead of falling off, as being demonstrated here. So back to the drawing board. I get some more dried flowers out. This time, instead of coating them with UV resin, I am going to just give them a spray with that varnish spray that I showed you earlier. And just loosely planning out which ones I want to go into which coasters. They're all going to get some of each, so just planning out how many I want of each colour, just to make it not look too bare or too overloaded. And for some reason decided that that bottom section needs another layer of resin on. So we'll jump ahead again to where I finished messing about with resin and back to the filling. At this stage, these still aren't necessarily the same covers that I'm going to use, but I'm just using them for the sake of just checking that everything shakes okay, giving them a wipe with a dry sheet to reduce static, and yeah, just checking out that the petals are shaking all right. And now moving on to adding in some other little bits and pieces, so I shall just let you watch this to some music again.
From empty mold to blooming tree, a quiet moment of creativity, a tiny world that we design, one careful drop at a time. Pour it slow, watch the colors blend, little worlds we slowly mend. Petals drift and the sparkles spin, a little spring sealed in resin. Hold it up and watch the light, tiny blossoms shining bright. A handmade world held within, a little spring sealed in resin. In a quiet room, late night glow, mixing dreams with resin slow. Some ideas I already know, some scare me half to death, but I still go. Epoxy waves and UV light, trying to get it wrong to get it right. Hands not perfect, that's okay, every mark's part of the way. I step outside what feels safe and known, build something beautiful on my own. If it breaks, I'll show you why. If it works, we'll both fly. make it with a heart, every part. Love in the mess, love in the art. If I say I should have, you'll understand. If I can't fix it, you still learn from my hands. Made with a heart from the start. This is creating with a heart. Some days smooth, some days rough, some days yeah, some days that's enough. But every pour, every try has a reason, has a why. If I find the way it's meant to be, I'll teach you step by step with me. If I don't, at least you'll know what not to do when you go. Comfort zones are made to bed, mistakes can still be teachers' friend. No gatekeeping, no disguise, just honest craft before your eyes. I make it with a heart, every part. Love in the mess, love in the art. If I say I should have, you'll understand. If I can't fix it, you
Okay, so here's all the covers that I made.
the heart from the start. This is creating with the heart. Not perfect, never planned, still proud of what I made by hand. If it shines or if it cracks, every lesson leads us back. I make it with a heart, every part. Failures and wins, they both leave a mark. So stay, create, don't be afraid. There's beauty in every risk you take. Made with a heart.
Okay, so these are the 4 that I've chosen as being the best ones, although they're not perfect either. I've really struggled with them this time. Yeah, when I was making them a bit more often earlier on last year, I think I got used to how to do them. This year, for the first time in 6 months, I have struggled. Okay, so I am going to finish the pieces off now. So again, giving these a wipe with a dryer sheet to reduce static. I will use UV resin to stick them on, and then we'll be done. So I will let you watch this on a time lapse with some music again, and I'll take this opportunity to say thank you for watching. Thank you to all my subscribers. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good week. Thank you. Bye bye.
The art. Thanks for creating with a heart. If I get it right, I'll show you how. If I get it wrong, you'll know it now. Clear as in morning, colors softly flow. Blue sky drifting where the wildflowers grow. Tiny blossoms waking on a swirling tree. A little world of spring inside this cup of tea. Petals floating slowly in the light. Gentle shimmer dancing in the sight. Spring in a cup, a garden in glass. Little bright moments quietly pass. Petals and colors drifting above a tiny blooming tree full of love. Spring in a cup, soft colors awake. A dream of the meadow we quietly make. Hold it to sunlight, watch it appear. A little piece of spring right here. rising as the sky draws near. Tiny flowers scatter in the breeze, a peaceful little forest in the trees. Sparkling pollen drifting through the air, every tiny detail placed with care. Spring in a cup, a garden in glass, little bright moments quietly pass. Petals and colors drifting above a tiny blooming tree full of love. Spring in a cup, soft colors awake, a dream of the meadow we quietly make. Hold it to sunlight, watch it appear, a little piece of spring right here. Shake it gently, watch the petals fall, a tiny living painting after all. In this cup a quiet season stays, blooming softly through the resin haze. I step outside, would feel safe and known, build something beautiful on my own. If it breaks, I'll show you why. If it works, we'll